show prep, no solid plan. Spins a yarn, recants a tale. The esoteric approach won't fail. Tune in, it's time for Common Man. Common Man, Common Man, charms the housewives like no one can. What'd you shoot? Where'd we play? Non-stop nonsense on deck today. Tune in, it's time for Common Man.
Oh boy! Why should anybody aspire to be a common man, an average man? Do you realize what it means to be average? That means you're the best of the lousiest, and the lousiest of the best. Now, if we demand more and more for producing less and less, while the have-not nations encourage and inspire and indeed require hard work and maximum effort, if we deify the common men while they encourage and reward the uncommon ones, well, the end result of such a lopsided race as that is too obvious to require elaboration.
I mean, it's like, hello?
I think we have a very good mix right now. I mean, the morning show does well, comparatively speaking, especially given what it has to go against. Dubers and I have done well, knock on wood, for 4 years. Common and Hartman have done okay, and Barrero is, in my estimation, the primetime player on our station, and cultivating a couple of kids in Sludge and Lake, and, you know, we have the Vikings and maybe some things down the road, so I think we're strong right now.
Huh?
Just keep battling. And just keep battling and keep battling.
Out of hundreds of deals that I've done,
Hundreds.
That is a cold-blooded connection.
I'm a fraud. Yes.
We'll head to Buffalo, play on the road. I think the weather, of course, having spent a lot of time in Minnesota, I understand the weather pattern. Pick up the Calcutta Clipper, swings down, swings up, lakefront influence, and out. I think we'll probably have about 45-degree weather, so it will not be a typical October 31st in Buffalo.
You know, sometimes when you practice, you'll set up chairs. You know, and you run 3 chairs just to show zones and stuff. The Viking defense looks like it's chairs. All the defensive backs covering are just atrocious today for the Minnesota Vikings.
Rosa, you don't know nothing.
Atrocious.
He's the clown from Brown. He's the 4th in the North. This is the Common Man, Dan Cole.
All of Common's golf shots today were atrocious. Well, no, I wouldn't say that. They weren't all atrocious. XBLidocious. Greetings, good afternoon, and ack to you and yours. If I had the genie's bottle and I rubbed it gently, and the genie popped out of the lamp and said, Master, you have 3 wishes. Wish number 1 would be to have 3 more wishes. Wish number 2 would be 115. Big one today tend to be, who's playing again? Creasel and Sauce against Max and Fox?
Correct.
That's a hell of a matchup. That's I think that's one of those that you know, when you look at, like, you know, in any sport, you know, like, let's say you look at the Sunday slate of games and take away, you know, the Vikings game of your favorite team, right? And you look at the slate of games and you go, ooh, that should be really good. You know, Ravens Bengals, let's say. Oh, Jackson against Burrow, that could be a really good game. Or, you know, Seattle versus the Rams. I look at this matchup as this is Seattle versus Rams to me. This has a lot of intrigue to me. The biggest question is, because Max, did he shatter his jaw or something?
Yeah.
You know, and he hasn't been, and I don't blame him. It's awful. He can't burn his toes. Couldn't even tell. And so
Can't eat solid foods.
He can't eat solid food. So I'm wondering, you know, he's such a happy-go-lucky kind of guy.
Yeah.
Can he make the word pass? Can he
enunciate properly?
Can he enunciate properly? Is he going to be able to pull it off?
This is his Jordan flu game.
This is his Jordan flu game. This is it. So that's at 1:15 today. It's the quarterfinal matchup, correct?
Yeah, then we'll be on to the semis.
And you'll have to remind me because I'm not paying as close attention as I once did. Cove and I are playing
Fulness and Halverson.
Ooh. They're the wild card in this thing.
That's the 2 versus 6 matchup because they upset the 3 seed. Winner today will face Marnie and Lil B.
Don't you think that they're kind of the wild card right now? I mean, the way they played, I think they were seeded properly. You know, some people would say, well, they won, so they couldn't have been seeded properly. I think this could be the call I've been waiting my entire life for. Let me see. Where'd my phone go? No, it's not. It's a spam.
You can't find your phone? Okay.
It's a spam scam. I think they were seated properly. I really do. I just think they I don't want to say they played I think they played above their seeding level, but it's not like I go, I can't believe those guys played that well. That's not,
I think they're like a 13 handicap that just happened to shoot a 79.
There you go. See,
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. But can they make that last? And I think they can. I mean, let's lay it all out on the table. I'm not going to do the old, bring it on, guys. We'll beat you with one hand tied around our back. They're a very formidable foe, and I give them the utmost respect. And I would think, Tenneby, let's say we have 100,000 lists. We have 50,000. Let's say we have a couple 13, 14 listeners. Of those 13, 14, how many do you think will be rooting for Fallness Helvey over?
Oh, they'll all be rooting.
I think everybody, right? Everybody wants to see. Everybody wants to see that duo win. And you know what? Deep down, I think I want them to win too. Now, I'm not going to throw it because of that, but I wouldn't mind. Look,
would you throw it for like $20 though?
Give me $20. Give me $20. I'd go for it. I don't even know what the price would be. It'd have to be high double figures. It'd have to be more than 20. But you wouldn't have to give me a C note either. Maybe $50 be worth it. But that's coming up at 1:15, so I am looking forward to that. The legendary Mark Rosen will join us at 2 o'clock. I sent out a tweet last night. I don't tweet as often as I used to. Matter of fact, did I talk about this on the air where I ran into trouble with the Twitter machine completely? It wouldn't allow me to tweet anything. And I had, speaking of Helvey, he took it, and even he was perplexed by it. And he said, I think what's happened is Twitter thinks you're a bot.
Because you don't tweet enough, or what?
I guess because I don't tweet, because my tweeting is really, it used to be, when I first got Twitter, when I would go out golfing, I would tweet every one of my golf shots. You think I would go shot by shot on the first segment of the show? I started going over every shot I hit. And then I realized, well, that's ridiculous. And but I went from there to where I don't use Twitter very often, so I thought I was a bot. And all Helvey said was, he tried to reboot it, as Barrera would say, and he finally just said, I think they think you're a bot. We've rebooted. I give it a couple of days, and I think you'll be able to send out a tweet again. Well, I gave it till that evening, and I was able to send out tweets again. But last night, I sent this one out. I sent out, Twins aren't that far out of this game. All they need to do is load the bases, hit a grand slam, load the bases, hit a grand slam, load the bases, hit a grand slam. Boy, that was... So Deuce and I, we started watching Habs Hurricanes, right? And it was pretty obvious. The Habs are offensively challenged. Like, isn't that sort of how the Wild under Lemaire were, or did they just intentionally not try to score? Because didn't they were a defensive-minded team under Jacques Lemaire? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
They didn't have a whole lot of high-end talent.
It doesn't. Do they have? I know they have a lot of young players, but as we've talked about before, they don't get a lot of shots on goal.
No.
And once the Hurricanes got up, I said after one, I said, well, this game's over. They're done. Because I don't think the Habs can score. And they ended up getting shut out, didn't they? Was it a shutout?
Not only that, but they were down 3-0 entering the third. So down 3 goals.
Right.
Usually the other team goes into a defensive shell, sits back. They're not aggressive. Montreal didn't get a shot on goal in the third until 17 minutes into the third, despite being down 3-0 when you're supposed to be super aggressive, right? You're taking risks.
Well, that's astonishing to me.
It is.
And explain it to me if you can. Is it because the Hurricanes kept the pedal down? Is it because or is it because offensively it just seems like the Canadiens are basically hapless? Or is it a combination of what?
It's a combination of both. I think, Montreal is not as good as what you would expect out of a conference final opponent,
right?
To be anyway. In spite of what the texter said the other day about how we should be doing our build job like the Montreal Canadiens.
Right.
And then Carolina, they might not have like the high end stars that other, like Colorado has. They don't have a McKinnon and Makar. But they're pretty much just like solid throughout. There's really no weaknesses. Okay. They have a lot of depth. They can send every single line at you, and they're balanced offensively, defensive goaltending.
And I'm not suggesting I'm a genius by any stretch of the imagination, even though I think I am. But I knew that game was over when it was 1-0. Now I know it wasn't, but I just didn't have any faith in the Habs. So we flipped over to the Twins, and that was. I think there was 2 or 3 innings in a row where the White Sox batted around. They were having so much. It must have been because you know what, these baseball players now, they over celebrate everything, right? They, a double off the wall, and you would act as though they just drove in the game, the go ahead run in Game 7 of the ALCS, right? Even these regular season games in late May, they treat as if they're really accomplishing something special. But they were just hooting and hollering, the fans. It just was one run after another. Somebody did hit a grand slam for the Chi Sox last night. When we tuned in, it was 3-1. In real time, within a half hour, it's 15-2. They didn't stop. And so I know that I think it was in the Fish Wrap Factory at West. It may have been the Athletic. Someone was writing a piece about, a lot of credit has to go to that pitching coach and then bullpen coach, LaTroy Hawkins, because they're squeezing more out of what is supposed to be, it is an inexperienced starting staff and bullpen than we've ever seen. I think the person who wrote it also said, now, again, that could change, and, last night it changed, because there wasn't a pitcher on the staff that could get anybody out. It was awfully ugly. So I guess you just try to forget that one. But Twins get crushed 15-2. Habs are on the brink, down 3-1. And then tonight, it's NBA again, right? I think it's tonight.
Yes, that's tonight, yes.
Game 6 between the Spurs trying to stave off elimination. We'll talk about some of those topics later, particularly with Mark Rosen. We'll take a short break, come back. Peek at the Purple is next. Brought to you by our friends at Affordable Electric for all of your electrical needs. Affordable-electric.com. Short break, come back with more here on the Common Man program on the Fan.
John Kriesel and Meat Sauce take on Max Fuller and Parker Fox today at 1:15 p.m.
The Power Trip is headed to the island this Thursday and Friday. Join the guys at Treasure Island for 2 shows full of games, tons of laughs, and great prizes, including trips to Las Vegas. Book your stay and save 20% with promo code KFAN. Plus, a special announcement you don't want to miss. Get the full details now at KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
I talked to Sauce on the phone. He pays less attention than I do. I said so yesterday was Wednesday. I said, are you out at the island tomorrow? He said, yeah. It's tomorrow, though, they're at the island, right? Did you just say that? Because I was listening as well.
I'd have to go back to it now. I already went away from it.
Anyway, Sauce, we'll see how close he pays attention.
Yes. Today and tomorrow.
Oh, today and tomorrow.
I think they're doing the show tomorrow, but they do like that.
Oh, that's right.
That's Thursday night.
Yeah, they do the Thursday night thing. It's sort of like when we used to do Common Unplugged. When I would come back, I'd go hit a bucket of balls. I'd do 1 to 3. Then I would sidekick on the Chad and Barrero show from 3 to 6. And then I'd go hit a bucket of balls after I quit the Chad and Barrero show. And then I would do Common After Dark, or we called it Common Unplugged. So it's kind of the Power Trip Unplugged, off air, and then they will do their show tomorrow. A peek at the purple brought to you by our friends at IDI, not at IDI, at Affordable Electric for all of your electrical needs. Remember, May is Electrical Safety Month, so the folks at Affordable Electric will help you take a look. They'll go over your house with a fine-tooth comb, safety inspections, surge protection, panel upgrades, and so much more. Even small issues, as you know, can lead to big problems. Whether your space is old or new, Affordable Electric will make sure your electrical system is safe, efficient, and up to code. 612-331-VOLT, 612-331-VOLT, or affordable-electric.com, affordable-electric.com. And remember, Affordable Electric is shockingly affordable. It's the only way to fly. So, Chip Scoggins, esteemed columnist, Fish Wrap Factory West Side. We text and talk more than most people know. We're a fellow Woodburyans. He wrote a piece today. Vikings quarterback competition, in quotes, likely to end with Kyler Murray at the helm. J.J. McCarthy hasn't been ruled out by Coach Kevin O'Connell, but why would Murray sign with Minnesota unless he was going to be the starter? And then Chip goes into his logic as to why he feels that way. And I tend to agree with him. I know that McCarthy, and you had some of those quotes that you got from, I think it was Seifert and maybe Alec Lewis. And McCarthy said, well, I've been told it's an open competition for the starting quarterback position. And, you know, I guess technically it probably is. If Kyler Murray was just awful in training camp for whatever reason, and, you know, let's say I'm sure he's going to play some preseason. You usually don't play your starters, but I'm sure they want to see him playing some real live action. If he was just brutal and McCarthy was pretty good, I guess that could change everything. But I tend to agree that I got to think it's Murray, because if you were convinced McCarthy still had a chance to be the starter going into this year, I don't think you'd bother with Murray. Now, you did get him for a nice price, so maybe you would have done that anyways. But
I don't think he's coming here.
Well, yeah, that's it. I don't think
without the understanding.
Yeah,
because he had other options.
Right. So I would think that would be. But again, if for some reason it was awful, or if he gets hurt, obviously that's a whole other story. But I don't see how he's going to be awful. He's a talented kid. He won the Heisman, right, back when he was playing. So, I know he had his ebbs and flows. Let's face it, with the Cardinals. That's the reason he was available. The Cardinals have decided to go in another direction. But I'm sure it's a delicate balance for the coaching staff, because they don't want. You spent a first-round draft pick, 10th overall. You moved up a spot to get McCarthy. You must have saw something in him. And we saw moments, very few, but we saw moments. If you want to keep him, excited and positive, I don't think you're going to tell him, look, kid, we got our doubts, and you're not going to be the starting quarterback. So I think you do that for psychological purposes only. Do you think that's why you would say that? Because he claims that they told him it's an open competition.
I mean, for the longest time, I thought it was, because when they signed Carson Wentz as well, I thought, well, they're going to trade J.J. McCarthy at the draft.
Right.
And you're still going to talk positively of him just to not lower the trade value enough.
Sure.
But, you also want to keep his spirits up, because as we've seen many times in the last couple of years, just because you're not named the starter doesn't mean you're not going to have a shot to start at some point, with all the injuries that can happen. And when you jump in, you need to be ready. Now, I do want to play. Yesterday, we read some of the quotes.
Okay.
But I now have the audio that some have glommed onto.
Okay.
It's a Kyler Murray answer and then a J.J. McCarthy answer. They were both asked the same question, like basically what's their relationship with the other.
Okay.
And I just want you to listen to the differences between Kyler's answer to this question and J.J.'s answer to this question.
Kyler, could you describe your relationship relationship with JJ to this point?
It's been great. Obviously, I know he's a younger guy, so any way I can help him, obviously, I feel like, I've played 7 years now, going on 8, so I'm considered a veteran, even though I don't see myself as that. Give him any knowledge that he needs. Again, we're both competitors, and I know, we both want what's best for the team.
Has he been receptive to hearing criticism?
Of course. Yeah, he's overly acceptive, and he's always communicating, asking questions, stuff like that, so it's been good.
JJ, what's your relationship been like with Kyler so far?
It's just like two guys in a classroom. He sits on one side, I sit on the other side, and it's the coach's responsibility to teach us and coach us. So,
is there any awkwardness like between you two?
Awkwardness, it's just like the same feeling, when you're in high school and there's another person on the other side of the room. That's just kind of how it is. So I wouldn't say there's any awkwardness.
Yeah, it certainly is different. I don't know how much I want to read into that, but yeah, it's 9 is he's peculiar, I think, a little bit. The whole his alter ego being 9 and this, that, and the other thing. I wonder. There's certainly two different. I don't know if he's. I think Murray maybe was. He said it's been fine. He's asked questions. If he says he's asked questions of him and had communication with him, I would think that's true. I don't know if. Do you see what I'm trying to say? I don't know if I read that much into those answers. If Murray's acceptable to the whole thing, and if because it sounds like McCarthy is maybe basically saying, look, we don't even talk. We're on other sides of the room, But if you listen to Murray, he says they have. So I think it's probably somewhere in between. Or do you think this is? I don't know how to read that room. Do you see what I'm saying? I don't know if Murray really is being a Richard and not saying anything to him, or if Murray, if McCarthy wants it that way because he thinks he's in a competition. I don't know what to believe here. I think it's unless I can see the two interact, I don't know. Your take?
Yeah. It's hard to know who's telling the truth. I feel like JJ's answer showed a little lack of maturity. Sometimes in that position, when you're part of a team, you don't need to create extra stress. And sometimes you be like, oh yeah, the relationship's great. We both right. Like you can say it in generic terms. To me, that looked like a guy. It sounded like a guy who's bitter he's in this position right now.
Yeah. Well, let's say he is. I like a guy who wears his emotions on his sleeve as well. Now, you're right. It's a team sport. You don't want to, but also means, I don't know. I'm not going to read that much into it, but I can see why people have. We'll know more once we get deeper, once we get into training camp. And I think they're both going to see game time action in preseason. I don't think there's any question about that. We'll see how they play and where it goes from there. Let's take a break, come back, peek at the purple, brought to you by our friends at Affordable Electric. For all of your electrical needs, affordable-electric.com. Don't forget, Program Password, our final matchup in the Program Password Invitational Tournament. Creasel and Sauce against Max and Fox. That's coming up at 1:15 here on The Fan.
The Common Man.
Hannah, the Doobie Brothers, 311, Snoop Dogg, and more. Your chance to win is waiting. Enter now at KFAN.com. Keyword contest.
We ain't nothing but dust in the wind, my favorite Santana song. Got a different one he normally does, too. Program Password at 1:15, 1 o'clock, 534. We were talking about Vikings and the quarterback situation with Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy. I got a text message from Shane in Shakopee, and he writes, go back and listen to hour 2 of the Power Trip. I wait till I'll do that tonight because I always like to have something to look forward to at the end of the day, so I'll wait. But he says, listen to Lieber's take. He's spot on. JJ gave a real-world answer and not a political answer. And I guess that's what I was trying to say. I didn't say it so eloquently. He's just calling it as it is. He wears his emotions on his sleeve. It's like he's probably in an uncomfortable situation. I'm sure he thought he had such a successful high school career and college career, won a national championship. We talked, he was 63-1 or some ridiculous number like that. He just didn't lose games. First game of his NFL career, he's awful for 3 quarters. He rallies the team to 3 fourth-quarter scores, and they win. He's NFL Offensive Player of the Week. He thinks this is what I am supposed to be. I am, some people say, I was born to do this or was born to do that. I've never believed that. I don't think you're born to do anything specific. You find something that interests you, that you like, and then you try to develop that skill, and some people are really good at it, and then I think they just try to feel like, well, I guess I was born to do that. If you feel that way, I'm not trying to talk you out of it. Well, McCarthy probably thinks, well, it's preordained. I'm supposed to be a National Football League quarterback. And so he probably is disappointed. Somebody else said JJ acting like his age, like he's a baby. I don't think he's being a baby. I think let's face his chosen career is already on the line. This is a kid that thinks he's going to be a National Football League quarterback, and he knows they don't bring Kyler Murray in unless they have doubts about him. And like you said, the coach, I think, is also, they have to worry about a confidence level here. Look, O'Connell's been called the quarterback whisperer. I don't think if you're the quarterback whisperer, I wouldn't think you're going to completely give up on McCarthy. As I said before, you used a first-round pick, 10th overall, moved up to get him. I don't think you've completely given up on him. And I think Murray, he said, well, I don't really think I'm a veteran. Well, he is a veteran. He knows how to handle the media better. He knows what to say. And so he says, oh, yeah, it's going great between us. We know how many times have we found out over years that locker rooms aren't always as ducky and bunny as we want them to be. You hear all the time, got a great group of guys, we love each other in here and this, and then you come to find out later after 2-3 years of that group team together, they don't get to where they want to go, guys start leaving, and then we find out, it really wasn't all that lovey-dovey in there like they tried to make you believe. So you're trying to tamp down controversy. So, yeah, my guess is McCarthy's feeling pressure. And he's going, look, it's like 2 guys in a classroom. We're both, our goal is the exact same, to be the starting quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. I don't think J.J. McCarthy has any interest in being a backup, and I don't blame him. At this stage in his career, I'm sure he still has all the faith and confidence in himself, and Murray sure ain't here to be the backup. So I think probably I didn't hear how Lieber said it, but I think it is a real-world answer. It's just like, this is the National Football League. This isn't, how, like, I remember when Pete was in grade school basketball, right? 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, equal playing time. Didn't matter if you had 10, 12 kids on the team. You had equal playing time. 5 would play, they'd play for 10 minutes. Next 5 would come in, they'd play. Didn't matter what the score was. Then it got late in the game, if it was a close game, then the coach had a little bit of discretion where, okay, we want to try to win this game. Let's go ahead and put in a couple of the kids that we consider the top kids on the team. But this isn't equal playing time between these guys. So I think McCarthy is just, like I say, I admire him for, I don't want to hear him go, oh, we love each other and we're going to work hard together. I don't believe that anyways. I don't think there's going to be a total disconnect between the two, but I think he knows this is a big year. If Murray is really, really good, he'll never see the field then. Let's say they do the preseason, Murray gets the starting job, and Murray's brilliant. He's throwing to Jefferson, Addison, and Durantula. Took a while to register. He's throwing to Durantula, too, He's
throwing to Steph, Clay, and Durantula.
Yeah, he's throwing to Steph, Clay, and Durantula. That's who he's throwing to, and he's lighting it up. J.J. McCarthy ain't playing unless there's an injury, right? And then all of a sudden, if Murray's really good, and let's say he's so good that he's our starting quarterback for the foreseeable future, Well, now McCarthy, what do you do with him? Do you just keep, trying to, he becomes your backup, and he becomes, where he's not really, you're continuing to try to develop him, but it's pretty hard to develop a quarterback if he isn't playing, right? So, yeah, I think there's probably a lot of pressure on McCarthy, and a lot of it's self-imposed, and it should be, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't think there's, I don't think it's the two of them don't like each other. I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think they're in a.
I'm fascinated by, I didn't listen to the Lieber segment, but the real world versus political.
Yeah.
And I think he's dead on, but I would just say, and he probably knows better than anyone because he was in that setting, that the real world answers don't typically fly within the organizations, right?
Yeah, that's true.
From a media standpoint, we like the real world answers.
Right.
I'm sure the fans like to hear the real world answers, but coaches and GMs and ownership and teammates don't always like to hear the real world answers. So that I find that to be interesting.
Well, I think you're right. If you remember, I don't know if this is similar, but remember when he scored on that little bootleg run and he did the gritty, or did he do the gritty? There's some celebration. It was the gritty. And he said, well, the coach really told me not to do that, but I did anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you say, you want to make, I think every team wants to make it, we're all on the same page where, it's all for one and one for all, and we all want what's best for the team. And, yeah.
I mean, the Giants are going through that right now, right? Where, speaking of political, that Jackson Dart appeared at a Trump
rally, yeah.
And then, one of his teammates, Abdul Carter, who was just drafted in the first round, top 10 pick, basically ripped him on social.
Right.
So now they got to have a team meeting. And, right, they both did their real world feelings.
Yeah.
But now the team's got to come together and go, we can't be letting this stuff out of the locker room, guys. Like, we got to keep this in tight, keep it cohesive.
Yeah. Who was what's the other guy? Not Dart, but the
Abdul
other guy?
Carter.
Carter. Because then he had to go, I don't know if it was social or if he said it in the media scrum, but he said, oh, we're good. We talked it out man to man. Well, no, you didn't. You didn't talk it out man to man. You had the coach say, keep it in-house, guys.
Yeah.
Shut up, kid. That's what it was. They didn't have a sit-down meeting and discuss their political views or whatever the case was. So
they had a sit-down meeting, stop spreading stuff outside the locker room.
Exactly.
Keep your views to yourself.
Yeah, that's it. And, there have been teams over the years, like back in the heyday of the Yankees, back in like the 70s, if I'm not mistaken, and again, I could have the wrong team, wrong era, but, well, the Raiders, there was another example. These guys weren't all Ducky and Bunny and lovey-dovey. There were.
It's not possible.
No,
to have that many guys in the locker room. You're going to have different backgrounds.
Exactly. You're going to have some people you just
different beliefs.
Like, tend to be, you don't like me, and that's okay, But you know what I'm saying?
I'm a dog guy. You're a cat guy.
Yeah,
I mean, we have that disagreement with each other.
Exactly. And so you're going to have that in the locker room as well. I don't. I don't know. Here's one that says, Common. I'm a Packaroo who loves listening to the Common Man. I have no stake in the 9 versus Kyle Murphy controversy. But from an outside observer who's wearing my cheese-colored glasses, not my purple-colored glasses like most KFAN rubes, it couldn't be more clear that Kyler's the starter and JJ knows his job is in jeopardy. This dates back to last season as well. Purple rubes need to drop their bias and pride and just admit they made a mistake drafting JJ. His press conference answer sounded like a competitor who knows he's not number one. Kyler sounded like a vet who knows this is his job to lose. And I tend to agree with
that. Yeah,
I absolutely agree with it. That's exactly what it is.
That's what they both sounded like yesterday.
Yes. And I don't think JJ's being a baby. I mean, you can interpret it that way, and I guess you could say that, but I just think it's what you and I just discussed. It's just that he knows that year number one, it started out brilliantly for him. The bad 3 quarters and then NFC Offensive Player of the Week, and he's probably thinking, this is it, man. I'm in the National Football League. I've already won the Offensive Player of the Week award. It's all downhill from here. And then he had his struggles and his injuries, and the mechanics are bad, and the whole thing. And so now he's.
But that leg swing's looking better, though.
I like it.
That leg swing's looking good.
And then you see Kyler Murray's leg swing, and you wonder. You really do wonder which leg swing is better. I saw this, and I don't know if this is going to come up in 534. I don't think it will, but it's an Associated Press story. Baseball players ask for expanded free agency, salary arbitration rights, and almost doubling the minimum salary. I'd like that. Baseball players fired the opening salvo Wednesday in what is expected to be a long and contentious labor negotiations, asking for expanded free agency and salary arbitration rights, along with almost doubling the major league minimum and increasing the money high revenue teams share with the less wealthy clubs. A day before Major League Baseball is expected to make a salary cap proposal, the union outlined its initial economic proposals during a bargaining session at the Players Association office in Manhattan. It included what is called a competitive integrity tax that would penalize teams dropping below a payroll floor, and called for the luxury tax threshold to rise to $300 million next year. Baseball's labor contract expires December 1st, and MLB is expected to institute a lockout. Management's equivalent of a strike under federal labor law. Players have vowed they will never accept a salary cap. Baltimore pitcher Chris Bassett, a member of the union's 8-man executive subcommittee, said in a statement, "Attendance, viewership, interest, by any measure you want to use, our game is moving in a positive direction. We put forward proposals designed to continue that trend, support, incentivize, and reward clubs who are committed to competing, especially small market clubs, compensate players fairly for the work they're doing." And it sounds good, right? I mean, in a perfect world, yeah, I think everybody would agree to that. I just, when it comes to divvying up the pie, though, it's always a bit more complicated than that.
Owners ain't agreeing to that.
Yeah, well, that's it. And the salary cap.
And the players know that, but that's just their probably starting point for negotiations.
The salary cap floor, which has gotten a lot of attention. It used to be just the ceiling. What's the salary cap? How much can you spend? How much can you spend? But the floor really, to me, is as important because, the Twins right now, for instance, now I know they're not rock bottom in salary, but are they like in that, they're in the bottom third, I believe.
They're like 23rd-ish?
Yeah, 23rd. Okay. And if you look at the salary, I don't know if you can pull it up. I'm sure they have it somewhere. They have the salaries at each.
I'm wrong. Twins are 27th.
27th. And is there a source to how much each player?
That was wrong. That was an active payroll.
Okay.
The overall payroll, they are 22nd.
Okay. Is there a source to see how much each player makes? I guess the point I don't even need to know. It's like you have a couple players that make it a bit more top heavy. I think there are many players on the Twins team that are making basically the major league minimum. And so I think the players are like, well, the minimum, first of all, the minimum salary it should probably be worth more because viewership's up, attendance, this, that, if those numbers are indeed true. And then you have, you're loaded up with players that are making the major league minimum. And all of a sudden it's like, well, it is pretty difficult for a team with the major league minimum to compete with the teams that are spending the $250 to $300 million a year. It doesn't matter how good those young players are or how much of a future they have. Maybe they're high upside guys and give them a few more years of experience. They might become some of those players that will be coveted by the Mets, the Dodgers, the Yankees, and all the other large market teams that have the money to spend. But
on the Twins' active roster, so this does not include the injured list guys like Pablo Lopez and Ryan Jeffers, but their current active roster, they have 10 players making over $1 million. The other 16 are making $820,000 or less.
So that is, I think, what is said by the statement from Bassett. We put forward proposals designed to continue that trend, support, incentivize, and reward clubs who are committed to competing, especially small market clubs, compensate players fairly for the work that they are doing. And the $300 million, a luxury tax threshold to rise to $300 million next year so that you double the major league minimum, increase the money high revenue teams share with the less wealthy clubs, and then everybody will be happy. And, whether that works or not, the owners get stubborn. I mean, I guess I understand that if you own the Dodgers, you own the Mets or the Yankees, and you're making a boatload of local money on your TV and radio rights. And I can see where you go, sorry, you bought a team that's in Milwaukee. That's not on me. But let's face it. I mean, then I think it's also you're only seeing. Is it something about seeing forests and trees and weeds and whatever the case may be? Where, without those other teams, you have no league. And if last night, you would have to think as an aberration, but if you see a lot of 15-2 games because one team's really good and the other team's really bad, I'm sorry, but baseball is going to die a slow death. I said several years ago that I truly believed it at the time. I thought in 25 years, baseball won't even exist anymore. It's just... There's only a handful of really good teams. I think the pitch clock changed my mind because it was such a slow-moving game, swinging for the fences. Well, as a matter of fact, part of what last night, part of the reason so many of these, I think the reason the American League is the way. Look at the American League has three teams over 500. I think it's a lot of these players just aren't as prepared to be overall baseball players as once here. Is that what they're doing in the minor leagues too? Is just like we want our pitchers to throw it as hard as they can and we want our hitters to swing for the fences. Yeah. So you've got guys swinging for the fences. Nobody knows how to base run, steal bases. Nobody knows. Do they work on fielding anymore? I was watching that White Sox 2 games ago. The White Sox had 3 or 4 awful defensive plays. And again, I know the wind was blowing and this and that, the other thing. I just don't think these guys learn the fundamentals. And I
miss the hit and run.
Yeah, all of those things.
I miss the suicide squeeze.
Sure. Stolen bases. I mean, you do see stolen bases, but I don't think you see them at the same rate as you used to. And so, I mean, it says.
I saw this from another sports talk radio host from another market, like an out-of-the-box idea that he thinks that baseball will turn to this in the future. I'm curious what you think of this. Because you know how they've been trying to do rules against this shift?
Yeah.
He suggests that in baseball, the position player should have to start in one spot on the field. They have to stay there until the ball's hit. I mean, so like if you're a third baseman, right now you could be on the line, you could move closer to shortstop. He's saying it would be a set spot that every player would always have to start in.
Now, is that until the pitch is delivered or till it's hit? I mean, you can start moving.
Didn't
after
say
it's hit,
exactly,
right?
but yeah.
I don't know. You and I debated this. I didn't. I
just thought it was an interesting idea I hadn't heard before.
I didn't like the idea of eliminating the shift. I didn't like when they said, no, your shortstop has to be on, and this is from looking at the field from the plate, has to be on the left side of the field, and the third baseman does, and your second base, your first baseman. And I mean, I understand the logic to it, but I don't agree with it. My position has always been, well, learn if they're going to load up and put 3 guys over between first base and second base because that's where you always hit the ball. Learn to hit it the opposite way because if you do, you'll get a hit every time. And guess what? They'll stop shifting on you. It's almost like become an overall, and maybe it's tough for some guys, and it's a tough sport. You always hear all the time, the hardest thing to do is hit a baseball, because if you're going to hit 3 out of 10 times, that's considered successful. Okay, I'll give you that. Well, then learn to be successful at it. Don't. If you're not able to hit to all fields, well, then guess what? You probably shouldn't be in the big leagues. Learn to hit to all.
Those players weren't in the big leagues because the analytics say, hey, the home run hitters are what we need.
Well, that's it.
So that's all they were going for.
You're right. So I don't disagree with you there, but I don't like the idea of. It's like, what's next? Well, the guy can't hit. He can't hit a sweeper. Well, let's put it on a T form and let him just hit it off. That's what it's gotten to. I don't know. If you can't hit to the opposite field, learn to hit to the opposite field.
What about I've also heard this suggestion, lowering the mound. Right, for these guys now, because they can throw 103.
Yeah. Well, they did that once already. They did that back in 1969, I think it was. That was after the year McClain won 31 for the Tigers and Gibson had a 1.12 ERA. Because the mound used to be as high as Kilimanjaro, and then they lowered it. I don't know how big the bump is right now. I don't know how high off the ground it is, but maybe they do need to do that. Maybe that would make the game even it out a bit more. We'll take a break. Don't forget program password. It's Creasel and Meat Sauce taking on Fox and Max. That's at 1:15. Rosen at 2. Other side of the break is 5-3-4, Tenna.
Yeah, what is the best and worst move for the Vikings this offseason?
John Creasel and Meat Sauce take on Max Fuller and Parker Fox today at 1:15 p.m. in the program password invitation.